Welcome to DIY Easy Crafts. Today we're going to take a look at how to make easy do-it-yourself baked clams. Now to start this project, we're going to head out to the sandbar and catch or dig up some fresh clams. You certainly do not have to do that. You could skip ahead and run to the store and pick up a few cans of chopped clams. For the ingredients, you're going to need chopped clams, sweet onion, celery, breadcrumbs, garlic, parsley, basil, and olive oil. I'm going to start this video as if you had fresh clams. And basically, this is not a chef's recipe. I'm just basically going to show you how I make baked clams. So I start by throwing the clams in a pot of boiling water. The object here is not to cook them, just to leave them in the water long enough for them to open. And this does two things. It partially cooks them, but it makes it a lot easier to open. You don't have to shuck the clams. Once they're open, cool them off in cool water, cold water, just to stop the cooking process. And that also cools off the shells. You don't get your fingers burned. And if you watched the previous video that I did on making clams flatbread, this recipe is very, very similar. In fact, I often make both at the same time. Only a couple of ingredients change. So the next part is to clean out each clam. So you scrape it out of the shell. It's a little muscle there that attaches both halves together. Any small kitchen knife will suffice. You break apart each half of the shell and separate those. You'll rinse those off later. And this process doesn't take long. You get into a little bit of a rhythm. Now I chopped up some sweet onion, and I also chopped up some celery. The mixture of how much onion that you want in your baked clams is really going to be a personal preference. I kind of like I like a lot of onion in my baked clams. You can chop these with a knife, or you can use any of the food processors to really finely chop them. And the same thing goes for the celery. Now to clean out the clams, I cut off the little dark beak, and then I cut halfway through the stomach and just scrape it off to the side. And I do this for each one, especially the larger clams. So you cut off that little hard beak, cut through the stomach, scrape it away. And what you're really doing here is you're preventing yourself from eating clam poop. Why eat clam poop if you don't have to? This process certainly takes a few more minutes than if you didn't do it, but again, it goes really fast. You get into a little bit of a rhythm. Now, on this video, if you notice, the knife is a etched knife with a beach scene. The cutting board is a fish-shaped cutting board. Both of those were other do-it-yourself projects, and you can find those on my do-it-yourself video list. Then I take the clams and I chop them up. This knife is a rocker, so instead of slicing, I can just rock back and forth to cut those into small pieces. If you want really small pieces, you can actually put those in the food processor as well. So now I'm going to mix it all together. So I'm going to start with garlic. Good tablespoon of garlic. I'm going to add some sweet onion. And definitely get the sweet onion. It makes a huge difference. A little bit of celery. Don't add too much celery. It just adds a little bit of taste. I like to add a little bit of olive oil to the mix. The object here is you really want a moist mix. I'm going to season it with a little bit of basil and parsley. And then I like to use seasoned breadcrumbs. I don't add too much. I don't like baked clams to be too bready. But this is now getting a little bit dry, so I definitely have to add a little bit of moisture. You can either add additional clam juice, especially if you had gotten cans of chopped clams, or you could just add some water. If they're too dry, especially if you're going to cook them and not immediately eat them, refrigerate them and reheat them in the microwave, they're just not going to come out good. You have to have them very moist. Next step, and the last step, is just to take a spoonful of the clam mix, put it into each one of the washed out shells. Make sure that there's no grit in those shells, or little pieces of clam shell. And then they go into the oven. I usually cook them 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. You want the baked clams to be just a little bit brown on the surface, a little bit toasted, and steaming hot throughout. And you can certainly vary up this recipe a little bit. You could add chopped bacon into the mix. You can do add more onions or more celery to your liking. Best part of the whole project is, of course, eating the baked clams. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I look forward to any comments that you'd like to leave. And I'd like to ask you to check out our website, www.diyeasycrafts.com, where you can find a variety of do-it-yourself video projects. Thank you very much.